Hello, my name is Dale Parnell. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a book that I was recently featured in. It's published by Black Ink Fiction and it's called Fields of Ruin. And mine is one of 4 fantasy novellas that is featured in the book. Um, I'd like to read a little segment for you, but to sort of give you the background of where we are. The main character is Jimmy Toffman. He's a young lad who lives on a rough estate in England. His mother left when they were young. His brother is currently in prison for burglary, and his father is out of work and is basically an alcoholic. The only way that Jimmy can support himself is to basically follow his brother's footsteps and start robbing houses. But his brother had taught him 2 very basic rules that he abided by. Never break in when somebody's there, and never take personal items. Whilst he's robbing a house, another burglar breaks in. Jimmy hides and watches as the guy strips down family photographs from the walls and then goes upstairs and fills a bag with all the kids' toys and stuffed animals. Jimmy's disgusted by this behaviour. He doesn't think it's right. And he's decided that he's going to track this gang down and have a word with them, basically, and make them stop stealing people's personal items. So we join Jimmy when he's basically come up with a plan of how he's going to track these people down. The idea was simple. Stake out the estate where I'd seen the guy and see if he came back. What I needed was a cover story. I didn't want to use the takeaway menus again. It would look too suspicious to be posting the same menus in the same doors less than a week later. And then it came to me, literally, as I was walking to the pub. A little Westie, jogging down the road towards me, happy as Larry. I bent down to give his ears a little scratch, when a very flustered, red-faced woman came sprinting around the corner. She was heading straight for me, eyes fixed on the dog, who was now on his back, showing me his belly. I hooked a finger underneath his collar as the woman stamped up to us, breathing hard, her hands perched on her hips as she tried to suck in some oxygen. Eventually she thanked me for catching her dog. It turns out she'd been chasing him for close to 3 miles. She clipped the lead into place and then turned back the way she'd come, chastising the dog for running away from her. The next day I found a pet shop and bought a dog lead and a bag of treats. What am I doing, skulking around in someone's back garden at midnight? Why, officer, I'm simply looking for my dog. He's run off again, the little scamp. The first 2 nights were a bust. I parked the van in the same estate and did a few laps, dog lead in hand as I scanned the back gardens, checking for any signs of a disturbance. On the second night I drove around a few places, looking for houses that I might consider worthwhile, trying to anticipate where the guy might be. I spent 4 hours driving around, checking alleyways and over fences. In the end I was shattered and cold and went home and collapsed on the bed. On the 3rd night I found him. I'd been out for a few hours and was sitting in the van trying to warm my hands on the heaters. I was starting to think the whole idea was a waste of time when he walked past the van. As soon as I saw him I froze. He was wearing the same dark jacket and trousers, nothing obviously out of the ordinary, but the walk was unmistakable. That slow, awkward shuffle, like it hurt him to move. His thick black hair was matted and hung down in lank tendrils that covered his face. I watched as he made his way slowly up the street, stopping every so often to look up at the houses. I thought he was going to move on when he stopped near the end of the street and looked up at the last house. This one seems to interest him. He just stood there staring at it for what felt like an eternity. Then he slowly opened the gate and walked up the path to the front door. I rolled the van window down a crack and strained to listen. After a few moments I heard the distinct sound of breaking glass. He was going in through the front door. I waited a few minutes, and then silently as I could, I slipped out of the van, closed the door and jogged up the street to the house. There was a tall privet hedge running along the front edge of the garden, and I ducked through the open gate and behind it, making sure I was hidden from the houses opposite. The streetlight behind me lit up the living room through the window, and I watched as the bloke shuffled around the room, taking items off the mantelpiece and shelves and slipped them into a large bag at his feet. Then he carefully lifted the photo frames off the wall. When he was done, he shuffled back out of the room. I decided this was the best time. Catch him unawares, get him trapped in the hallway. I moved quickly over to the front door, nudging it open slightly with my foot. The door swung silently open, and there he was, stopped dead in the hallway, watching me. I felt my skin go cold, but clenched my fists and stepped into the house. "Oi!" I offered, my voice not as strong as I hoped it would be. "I want a word with you." He didn't make any noise as he moved. I think that was what freaked me out the most. Just the slightest rustle of fabric, and he was there, barely an inch away from me. His face was pale, like one of those kids who can't go out in sunlight, and his eyes were hid behind his lank, dirty hair. He smelled like he had been sleeping rough, rank with mud and dirt and rotted food, and as I tried to back away from him, I realized that he had hold of both of my arms. I tried to shake him off, but his fingers just tightened around my wrists. "Get off me," I whispered angrily. But he didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't even look me in the face, his head held down, the lank hair drooping as he stared at my chest. And then I felt it. It was small at first, a tickle at the back of my head, like when you're trying to remember something but it won't come. Then it was getting stronger. I felt hot, like I was standing too close to a fire, the flames getting taller, surrounding me, and all I can do is watch. And then I see her, walking out of the fire, her hair tied up the way she used to like it, her favourite white jumper, the smell of her perfume hitting me, reminding me of what it was like before she left us. My mum. We were in the park. Me, Carl and Mum. She'd taken us. She never used to, but today she had. It was sunny. The sky so blue that it looks unreal, like it's the sky from a cartoon. Carl has found some other boys playing football, and now he's playing with them. And Mum has put me on one of the springs, and she's gently pushing me back and forth, and I'm laughing, and she's smiling at me like I always wanted her to. She's smiling at me, and she loves me. I know she loves me, and I love her. And I know this is a good day. This is my favourite day ever. But I'm crying. Why am I crying? And where? I was in the park. Why am I on the floor? The floor feels cold. My arms hurt. Why do my arms hurt? I want my mum. Where's my mum gone? Please, Mum, don't leave me. Thank you. And if you want to read the rest of that story, like I say, the book is called Fields of Ruin, published by Black Ink Fiction, and you can get it at all the usual places you buy books. It's available in paperback and ebook. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.